Okay. We're going to leave the door open. We're going to zoom in. Maybe. I'm just going to kind of do what I do every morning. Only the one change is I am going to watch the most recent Murder Mystery in Makeup and try to replicate her smoky eye while listening to the video. I know that it's not about the makeup, but I liked it on her Instagram, so we'll see if I can follow along. But I know it's a longer video, so, you know, there it is. So it's the Hells Bells, the Black Widow of the Midwest, Belle Guinness.
I feel weird with earrings on. They're cute. You see, I used to have my ears stretched, so they're
Love
like
her.
cat butthole ears. So the only earrings I can wear are like hoops, clip-ons, shit like that. Why am I talking about earrings? I don't know. Who am I? I'm a new person. Earrings. Oh, they move. Hi, how's it going? I hope you guys are doing well out there, staying safe, staying healthy. I know it's like crazy right now out there. Wild. My name is Bailey Sarian, and today is Monday, which means it's Murder, Mystery, and Makeup Monday. If you are new here, hi, how are you? My name is Bailey Sarian, and every Monday I sit down and I talk about a true crime story that's been heavy on my noggin. That wasn't a good one. Noggin. And I do my makeup or just get ready for my day at the same time. If you're interested in true crime and you like makeup, I would highly suggest you hit that subscribe button because I'm here for you every Monday. Last week we talked about Ted Bundy. Very interesting idiot. I don't know what else to say. Very sick man. Today I was like, okay, I need to talk about a lady killer. We need a lady killer. Dude after dude after dude. I want a weirdo. Like, I'm looking for the weirdos. Today, I want to talk about a lady, and her name is Belle Guinness. Have you heard of her? Maybe. I hadn't. So I was very intrigued. Who is this woman? What did she do? Apparently, she did a lot. And apparently, allegedly, possibly, I think she got away with it.
It looks like she did her eyebrows already.
But it's like, maybe you decide. It's up to you. Maybe. Whatever. I had a lot of coffee. Okay, so I'm going to clip my hair back. I'm wearing earrings. Okay, so Belle was originally, well, she was born Belle Paulson, and she was actually born in a little town in Norway. Now, this whole story takes place like in the 1800s, the early 1900s. So, you know, with older stories, it's really difficult to find the truth because things and stories tend to change.
I need to pause for a second. She's already into it. I haven't done my brows or anything, so not watch the video yet, because I mean, it looks like
tend to change throughout the years. Everybody has their own version. It's like a big game of telephone, you know? So I'm going to tell you one story that I found, but I heard it went down differently through other sources. So the truth is in there somewhere, right? So she was born in Norway. I think that is true. Anyway, so her father, his name was Peter Paulson, and he was a traveling magician. Now, when Belle was a child, she would participate or just like help her dad with his shows. Her mother was also involved with it as well, and they would just put on performances kind of like at a circus is what I was assuming, because it said that Belle would walk on a tightrope. To me, I'm like, is that a magician or is that like a circus show? Either way, it just sounded like they were performers. I don't think it really matters, but these are the things that I do get stuck on. Like, but what really was it? I don't know. It drives me wild, but I guess we'll never know. Anyways, so yes. So her father would like do these performances and she would participate in it as well. She wanted just a new life. So she's like, I'm going to go to America. I'm going to go to the United States. Anyway, so in 1881, Belle decided she was going to move to the United States in search for wealth, money. So she did just that. So Belle moves to Illinois, and while she's there, she meets a Swedish man, and his name is Mads Albert Sorensen. Mads. His name is Mads. Yeah, Mads. And this is about 2 years after moving to America, and she decides to get married to him. So they do. So the two of them are living in Chicago, and they decide to open up their own candy store. Dream job. Awesome. I love that. Candy store? Yes. So the two of them open up a candy store, and they both manage and work it. It seemed to be doing okay because it had only been open for a couple couple of months. And then it got really slow. Business really wasn't booming as much as they thought it was going to be. So they weren't making profit anymore. And it was becoming a little bit of a problem because they're losing money. Belle was out here to get wealthy, you know? So she's getting like, shit, this is not going according to plan. Time goes on and whatever. It is what it is. I mean, maybe they can turn a profit. Come on. Anywho, so one night though, a couple months after this candy store had opened, at night, a fire breaks out. The candy store is completely burned down. Belle is like, thank God, my prayers have been answered. Now, luckily, nobody was hurt. While insurance officials were looking for what caused the fire, they didn't really have any luck finding anything. So they were like, okay, well, it must have just been an accident. And they paid Mads and Belle their insurance claim. Now, during this time, right after Belle and Mads got married, Mads had purchased 2 life insurance policies in July of 1890. One was about to expire, and the second one he purchased was going to be the one that continued on forward. But for like 2 days, the 2 insurance policies were both active, if that makes sense, at the same time. Yeah, it was like for 2 days, both of his policies were active. So, I mean, let's just say if for some reason Mads had died on one of those 2 days, I mean, that's a lot of money you would get, right? So it was like kind of like a jackpot. Anyways, so, well, guess who dies? Yeah, it's Mads. He ends up dying on a day when both of his policies are active.
Whoa.
Belle was questioned, obviously, like what happened? All he wanted to do was just like go lay down because his head was just pounding. And Belle said that she just felt just awful. I mean, her poor husband is just working so hard. Oh, he just has a headache. Let me take care of you, honey. Belle ended up giving him some quinine powder for the pain. And then Belle said when she came back into the room to check on him, he wasn't breathing. He was dead. Belle was just shocked. He just had a simple headache. What the hell happened? Now, it would be ruled that Mads had died from heart failure, but his relatives were like, no, there is no way he died of heart failure. They truly believed that he, Mads, was poisoned. Aqua Tavana. Yeah, the family was like, he's been poisoned. There's no way he died. So it was a little strange, and the family just wanted more answers because, I mean, that can't be right. So naturally, the family is feeling a little suspicious about the situation. Now, they go and they do a little bit of digging, and they see that Belle was able to collect 2 life insurance policies on Mad because he had died on one of the days where he had both of the insurance policies. I mean, what are the odds of that? But they see that Belle had collected $8,000 and she collected it the day or so after his death. Like, it was pretty quick. She went right for the money. Was this set intentionally? They come out, they question Belle, and they also just look to see what caused the fire, but they found no proof of fraud. So the insurance company followed through paying out her insurance claim. So Belle just got money for her husband dying, the candy store burning down, and her home burning down. So Belle lost everything, her husband, her job, her house. I mean, everything. She was being questioned by people, you know, like, oh, I must have been up to this. And she was sick of it because she knew deep down that she was innocent. So she decided that she was going to move because she needed to get away from it all. She wanted to start again, a new life. So Belle decided to move, and she ended up going about 6 miles from La Porte, Indiana. Anyway, so she purchases a farm out there. You know, she comes from the upbringing, her childhood. She knows how a farm goes. Her parents had one. She worked on it. She thought, okay, this would be a great way to like make some money. Now, while out there in Indiana, Belle would meet another man. His name was Peter Ganes. Just a few months after buying the farm, and in 1904, Belle and her husband Peter were working together at their new store that they opened up. It was a local market where they would sell meat, market stuff. Now, Peter was mainly the one who would work there. From my understanding, he would work as a butcher. Everything's going great. Peter seemed to be well off. Once Belle had locked him in, got married, got that ring, she was like, okay, now we can open up a store together and try and be wealthy again, because her first attempt with the candy store was going downhill, so she needed to redo it. Now, same thing. After some time, sales just really weren't doing that great. One day, Peter and Belle were working together at the store, at the market, and it was just a normal day, no big deal. Peter was organizing organizing a shelf, putting it all together, and somehow a meat grinder that was on this shelf, it somehow moved due to him trying to like balance it or something. She doesn't know. Belle doesn't know, but it moved and it fell off of the shelf, falls onto Peter's head. It crushes his head, crushes his skull, quote, thus ending his existence, end quote. Peter dies a very awful death. A meat grinder falls on his head and crushes his skull. So the coroner's jury, they questioned Belle, the only person who saw the accident, and they asked Belle, can you please tell us exactly what happened? And Belle went on to tell the coroner's jury that this meat grinder just came off of the shelf and it struck her, quote, poor husband's head, end quote. Now, since they didn't have any proof or any really reason to question this, Belle's statement was accepted as true and his death was ruled as an accident. Now, it's said at the time of Peter's death, Belle and Peter, they had 3 small children together named Philip, Myrtle, and Lucy. That is a name you just don't hear anymore. Myrtle. I like that. Myrtle. The couple, they also had an adopted daughter, and her name was Jenny Olson. And Jenny was 14 years old at this time. So technically they had 4 kids. Belle continues now without her husband. She's taking care of the children all by herself, which must be very difficult. And then she's also trying to manage this store that she still has and this farm. She's got a lot on her plate. September of 1906, Belle's adopted daughter, remember I just mentioned her 3 seconds ago. Her name's Jenny. Jenny goes missing. Neighbors and locals, they hadn't seen Jenny in weeks, and they thought, well, that's really strange. Like, we normally see Jenny almost every day. This would end up being brought up to authorities. Police, they go out to Belle's farm and they question her, like, hey, your neighbors and stuff haven't seen Jenny. Is she here? Can we see her? Can we talk to her? Belle tells police that Jenny was sent to Los Angeles to finish her education out in California. Now, when Belle told this to authorities, they honestly didn't really think much about it. They didn't think to question Belle because it was said that Belle was not only intimidating, the way that she said things was very confident and stern to the point where you didn't question it. I know you've met people like that, where they just say something with such confidence, or the way that they say it, you don't even think to question it, because why would you? Isn't that awful? Oh, I fall for it a lot. Like in infomercials, they get me every time. Again, when Belle said this, it was like, okay, well, she must be out there in Los Angeles because Belle said so. Belle put out an ad that said, quote, personal dash line. Comely widow who owns a large farm in one of the finest districts in LaPorte County, Indiana, desires to make acquaintance of a gentleman equally well provided, with view of joining fortunes. No replies by letter considered, unless sender is willing to follow answer with personal visit, end quote. So Belle was trying to find a well-off man, a rich daddy. May 1907. A man named Ole B. Budsberg. He was an elderly widower and he was staying in Wisconsin, and he saw this advertisement Belle had put out. He wanted to meet Belle and see what could come from it. He was pretty well off. He had money. He was alone. He thought, hey, I should respond to this. I should go see her. He had 2 grown-up sons, 2 adult sons. They were moved out on their own, doing their own thing, you know? So this man decided, like, I'm just not going to involve them. I'm not going to tell them because they'll talk me out of it. You know how that goes. He left his home in Wisconsin and headed out to Belle's farm. Sadly, he was never seen again. He never returned. Nobody saw him again. The end. Jeez Louise. The sons of Ula, they were like, we haven't heard from our dad in quite some time. We need to go and check in with him, see what he's doing. So they drive out to their father's home and they realize that he's not there. And they start asking questions, asking neighbors and stuff. And luckily, Ula had told a neighbor, like, where he was going, that he was going out to visit this lady from an advertisement. So the sons are just asking anyone and everyone. And finally, somebody said that they had seen him when he was negotiating the sale of a mortgage and the LaPorte Savings Bank, and they saw him draw out money from his account. And this was on April 6th of 1907. And that was the last time anybody had seen Ole. So another man named Andrew, and he was living in South Dakota, but he also saw Belle's advertisement. He was also communicating with her as well. Belle was keeping her options open, which is fine. I'm not judging. So Andrew was writing Belle letters, and he decided before going out there to see her, he wanted to like get to know her a little bit more. So Andrew was writing Belle letters and planning to take a trip out there to go visit her. The more that they talked, the more that Belle was trying to convince Andrew to come out there and to live with her, stay at the farm, and open up a business out there with her. And this was sounding kind of interesting or appealing to Andrew, like move with her, open up a business, run a farm. Sounds good to me. Belle was impressed by Andrew's letters and thought that they could make a new life together. So Andrew decided to head out to Belle's farm in January of 1908. His plan was to help maintain the farm and also make any repairs that were needed, but he was going to be the handyman and the lover. Andrew headed out there and he moved in with Belle. And then he was there for about 2 weeks when Belle had asked him to go with her to the savings bank in La Porte and get a $3,000 loan for Andrew so that he could open up his own business. So they go, and the bank won't approve Andrew's loan, but they did approve him for a $1,200 loan instead. And the bank would send that money through the mail as a check. So Belle and Andrew go back to their farm and they wait for the check to come. Now, Belle had her eyes on that mailbox, okay? She was able to get her hands on the check before Andrew even saw it. So she was playing dumb. She's like, I have no idea what's taking so long with this check. It's supposed to be coming one day, they said. I don't know. And Andrew had no idea that the check already came, and she took it she deposited $500 into the savings bank, and then she took $700 and she deposited it into another bank. It was at the state bank, and she also paid numerous large bills with it. So then a few days later, Andrew disappears. I know. Andrew's brother, he hadn't heard from him in weeks, and normally he would get letters from Andrew. Andrew had told his brother that he was going to see this woman named Belle and told her the whole story. So this brother knew that Andrew was at Belle's house. So he was like, I'm just going to write Belle a letter and ask where he's at. Just ask her directly. So the brother then writes Belle and asks, do you know where my brother is at? I haven't heard from him and he's not responding to my letters. Belle told the brother that Andrew had went and gotten a loan, and then as soon as he got the money, he took off and he went to Norway. I know. What? This is news to Andrew's brother. Belle also told Andrew's brother that she was in shock as well. I mean, wow. It was just so random. I can't believe he would do that, you know? Belle tells Andrew's brother, hey, you should come out to my farm so that you can help me do like an extensive search around the farm looking for Andrew or looking for any clues. She is inviting Andrew's brother over. Don't go, it's a trap. Or she's trying to get with the brother. Either way, she's inviting him over. Like, come on over, help me look. I think he might be here. Maybe we can find some clues. It's a lot of land, and with your help, it'd be easier for us to cover this land and look for any clues. Great idea. At about 3 a.m., Belle, her home was burned to the ground. Again, it's not funny because this time a lot of people died. So when investigators got a call about, this fire that happened and the house burned down, they went out there to investigate. They took a closer look at the children's remains and they concluded that they were the remains of Belle's children. They also find the remains of a woman. Investigators assume that this is Belle because, it's her kids, and the woman kind of resembled Belle, so they assumed she had died along with the children. Upon further inspection, they see that the head had been chopped off. Belle's head is removed. What the hell? And because of that, it led to some questions like, who is this? Is this really Belle? And if it was Belle, somebody was angry. So investigators were looking for any leads, and they come across this man named Ray. And Ray at one time had worked on the farm with Belle, and he ended up leaving due to not getting along with Belle. They had arguments, they fought a lot, according to Ray. But Ray would go on to say that he had a lot of dirt on Belle. He would also tell Belle that one day he was going to expose her. But Belle would go around and tell everyone that Ray was crazy and that nothing out of his mouth was something that you should believe. So she's spreading the word that Ray is just crazy. That's why she fired him. That's why she didn't want him working there. And don't believe anything this crazy man has to say. Investigators would soon find evidence that would prove Ray was at Belle's home when the fire started. Oh, shit.
Oh,
I
shit,
tried to
indeed.
dig around a little bit and I couldn't find exactly what this evidence was, but something was linked to Ray to prove that he was in the home when the fire started, so they say. Ray was questioned further and he would tell investigators that there were bodies buried in the backyard of Belle's home. Oh, shit. On May 5th, the investigators, went looking and they found 5 mutilated and decomposed bodies buried in the backyard. What? Yeah, 5 bodies were buried in the backyard. One of the bodies they were able to identify as Jenny Olson, the adopted daughter. Yeah, they found her in the backyard. So awful. It was believed that she was murdered because she knew too much regarding the death of Peter in 1904. Also, authorities found burlap sacks and they had torsos, hands, arms hacked from the shoulders down. They found human bones wrapped in loose flesh that dripped like jelly. That's how they described it. I'm not trying to be gross, but they said it dripped like jelly. Many of the skulls had blunt trauma and gashes in the skulls, which were found separated from the bodies. Belle, what are you doing? This isn't farming. On May 9th, 2 more bundles of bones, decayed flesh, and clothing were found in their private graveyard they had built, but they were unable to identify the bodies that they had found in the private graveyard at that time. On May 14th, a few bones of one more victim were found in the ashes in the cellar and some in shallow graves under the original hog pen. They also found more bones near an outhouse and also by the lake nearby. Yeah, I don't know who was doing what with this. I don't know. The bones had been crushed on the ends as though they had been struck with a hammer after they were dismembered, and then quicklime or calcium oxide had been scattered over the faces and stuffed in the ears. It kind of sounds like a chemist or something is doing this, right? A serious doubt arose as to the actual fate of Belle. Now, it was suspected that she too burned in the home because they found they found a lady who looked like Belle who was burned with the children, but the head was cut off, which was kind of weird. They started thinking, they were like, it seems like Belle was up to no good. Like she was doing some shit here on this farm. They got to thinking that Belle murdered her children and several others, that she may have lured in an unsuspecting woman into her home, someone who kind of looked like her. It wasn't her, but kind of, they could be the same. They're thinking, well, Belle could have killed this woman, disfigured her remains so that she could not be recognized, chopped her head off, messed up her appearance and everything so they couldn't identify the body and that no further search would be made for her. Hello, that's like a great idea in Belle's mind. Not in my mind. In Belle's mind. But in the ashes of the home, they found a lower jawbone from this woman. This was taken to a local dentist for examination. Now, this is the only dentist in town. So if you're going to get some teeth work done, you're going to this dentist. So this dentist would know like what he did. Some of the dentistry work was visible on the teeth, which were still connected to the jawbone. So they take it to this dentist and this dentist looks at it and he positively identified the work done as the work done for Belle a year previously. The theory of the prosecution was that she was burned to death, but a doctor who examined Belle's remains, his opinion was that her death was caused by contraction of the heart, probably due to some kind of poisoning. And this doctor believed that this is the same poison that was used to kill her other and previous victims as well. Shortly after Belle's private graveyard was discovered, the 2 sons of Ole, they came down to La Porte because they thought maybe he had fallen into this woman's trap. So they went down there and they were actually able to identify one of the bodies as that of their missing father. So he was identified. And then on May 12th, the surgical instruments with which the bodies were probably dismembered with were found in the ashes. And then on May 19th, a woman from Wisconsin, she arrived into town to inquire regarding her brother who had left home to marry a rich widow in La Porte, but he was never heard from again. Unfortunately for were heard, most of the bodies were badly mutilated and decomposed. It was impossible to determine if her brother's remains were in there, but it's believed that he was a victim of Belle's as well. There was another man that went missing from Wisconsin. His name was Henry, and there's a couple of stories like this. It was put out there in the newspapers about what was found at this farm. So people whose loved ones went missing and they believed went there, they were coming out to the farm to identify hopefully a family member or something. Well, not hopefully, but you know what I mean, right? So neighbors were saying that they saw Ray around the area and he was there that night that the fire started. And on May 18th, a watch, which was in the possession of Ray at the time of his arrest, was identified as property of a man who left his home in 1907 to marry a widow in LaPorte, but was never heard from again. So Ray was wearing items from the victims. So authorities go and they question him further about this. Like, what the fuck? Are you the one responsible for this, Ray? Like, who did this? But Ray said that Belle gave him the watch as a gift for all the work that he had done around the farm. So authorities ask Ray what were his whereabouts on the night of the fire, and they find out that Ray's not telling the truth. Eventually, after a lot of pushing from authorities, Ray eventually confessed that he had burned the home down, but denied he had committed any murders. On May 22nd, 1908, Ray was charged for the murder of Belle and her family by means of arson. He pleaded guilty of arson and was sentenced to 2 to 20 years in prison. Immediately after his conviction, Ray's health failed rapidly, and he ended up dying on December 30th, 1909. So not even that long after he was sentenced, which sucks because they could have probably got a lot more answers from him. On January 14th, 1910, a detective came forward and made a public confession saying that Ray came to him after his arrest and admitted that he helped Belle bury one of the victims, and he also saw Belle chloroform another victim and then cut them up with a hatchet. Belle did this.
Dude.
Ray also confessed that he chloroformed Belle and her family. Belle was pronounced dead, but whether she died in the fire or did indeed escape remains a mystery. The crime itself, though, was acknowledged as a part of area history in the LaPorte County Historical Society Museum, and they have a permanent exhibit dedicated to Belle Gunness. So in the end, Belle is thought to have killed at least 14 people, most of whom were men she had enticed to visit her on the promise of marriage, while some sources speculate Belle was responsible for as many as 40 murders. A lot of the bodies that were found on her property were not identified. They kept some of the DNA in their systems, but it was never linked to people. Maybe it's changed now, but from my understanding, a lot of them still remain a mystery. The question remains, was her death faked? Was she really responsible for all these deaths? Was Ray the killer? What was the goal? So many questions, no answers. Who the hell was Ray? I don't know. I don't think Belle died in that fire. No. Nay. Belle seemed to be, I don't want to call her smart, but she kind of seemed like it, right? She was getting away constantly with all this nonsense. If she killed her family and burned down her house again, she could leave and start a new life. Why wouldn't she? Plus, she had all these bodies on the farm. What was she doing? Like, what was her goal? Just to get money? What was she doing with all this money? You guys, I have so many questions and there aren't many answers. The only reason she was connected to or identified was because this dentist had identified the work done on her teeth. How many teeth does he do? Does he do a lot of teeth? How sure is he? Was he paid off? We don't know. I think, though, that Belle got away. Anyways, I would love to hear your thoughts down below. What do you think of Belle, this awful woman who, I don't know what she was doing. Just getting money? Her poor kids? Oh, I forgot about them. Poor kids. Oh, Jesus. Do you think Belle's still alive? Well, not now, but do you think that she was still alive? I hope that you have a wonderful day today. You make good choices. Please, please, please be safe out there. Please. Yeah. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day ahead. Love and appreciate you guys so much. Oh my God, yeah, I hit 800,000 subscribers.
Hell yeah, girl.
Thank you so much. That's a lot. That's a lot of eyeballs, you know? It freaks me out. Thank you so much for subscribing and hanging out with me, man. Pretty cool.
Welcome, girl.
Now what? Now what? Anyways, let me know who you want me to talk about next week. I will be seeing you guys later. I'm wearing earrings. Bye.
Obviously didn't finish in time. You okay? My thing that I had up on the wall.
Yeah, your like little organizer thing you had on the wall by your office desk or whatever.
It just collapsed.
Yeah, it just like fell down.
Oh no.
Like
Are my photos okay?
That's the one that fell down before, right?
It was up there for a while this time though. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh well. Bye.